everybody, and welcome to today's session. Today we are, just to let you know, I've just pressed the record button. The session is always recorded. May I just say thank you for being here today. We're going to be having a very interesting topic, and we're going to be talking on dyslexia and teaching. But before we go into today's session, I think I'll take my time to just introduce the speaker for today, Teodora. Some of us have met her, have spoken to her, and some of us haven't. She's based in Greenford. What can I say about her? So Teodora is an experienced educator, leader and innovator with a career spanning over 2 decades in higher education. Her work has always been driven by a deep commitment to helping students succeed and creating learning environments where everyone can strive. Currently, she's currently working here at GBS. I'm sure I did mention that earlier. Pardon me, sorry, my phone is yes. Um, at GBS as a study skills, academic writing and study skills lecturer for the Oxford Brooks partnership here at GBS. She plays a very key role in her department in developing essential study skills for our students here. I think one great thing I have to highlight on Teodora is her great achievement in achieving a training in supporting students in dyslexia, which is why she's having the session today. She's earned that through the university, Lancashire University. This training has helped her acquitted herself to create an inclusive and supportive classrooms where all students, including those with learning differences, can excel. She didn't stop there. She's actually a member of the British Dyslexia Association, and she has always continued to be an advocate for accessibility education for all. Her contribution to academic research and publishing also reflects on her passion for education. Theodora's career is a shining example of dedication to teaching and learning. Her work supports not just academic excellence, but also the belief that education should be accessible and empowering for everyone. And what does she do for hobbies? I've got to share that. It was really interesting to know that she loves reading, swimming, like me, traveling and exploring new cultures. Ladies and gentlemen, am I excited to invite Tudora, our speaker for today? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you for this warm welcome and this wide presentation of me and my background. I'm really happy to be part of this amazing forum where we share experience, ideas, some tips how to survive in the classroom. And my personal goal today is just to share my understanding of what dyslexia is from the point of view of formal training in the first place. But my formal training was actually inspired by the fact that I've been raising a dyslexic child over the last 17 years, and I have been through a lot of ups and downs in terms of supporting my child and then students in my classroom. I also believe that today's session is going to be a good refresher. I know that we have a fantastic team of welfare staff who support our students and do really incredible work. They did do a lot for my students when I used to train trainee teachers, and I know firsthand how supportive they are with with the wide range of neurodiverse students that we have in global banking school. So what we are going to do today, we are going to experience a little bit and expand our understanding of what dyslexia is. I'm going to try and put you in the shoes of a dyslexic learner. I would say we're all learners in general. We are going to talk a little bit about the problems dyslexic students face in their journey to achieve their academic endeavors. And I'm going to share certain teaching techniques, both from my personal practice as a teacher, lecturer, and a parent of a dyslexic child at the same time. Um, what I would like you to do now is please scan the QR code and try and attempt and answer these questions. We're just trying to activate our schematic knowledge. I know that our audience at GBS is very much knowledgeable and experienced in terms of dyslexia. So let's just warm a little bit. So scan the QR code and it'll take you to my Mentimeter. All right, I see some responses are popping up. Well done. Thank you for the contributions. I see that you're eager to respond. I'm just going to go through some of the responses that I can see here. Some of you share that this is another way of learning, and I absolutely support that. This is an inability to fully read information, all right? Dyslexia affects reading, writing, spelling, causing challenges, and processing language. Absolutely correct. People living with dyslexia find it difficult to match words and items, probably. It is an inherited condition. Yes, well done. That's true. To be dyslexic is to have been diagnosed with dyslexia by a professional. That's absolutely true. Unless you're specially trained and licensed, I don't think you're in the capacity and shoes to dyslexic students, but it doesn't mean that as a practitioner, you're not capable of recognizing certain signs of dyslexia, which I hope today we will be able to go through and revise. Okay, and I'll just go through one more. They have various degrees of difficulty in enunciation of words. Very well worded. I don't know who I don't know who the authors are, but it sounds really good to me. I'm just going to mute Bartholomew just for the sake of clarity in the main room. Okay, right. So, talking about dyslexia, my way of thinking is that we should be absolutely positive in terms of this neurodiverse condition. I've never ever allowed myself to think of dyslexia as something negative or an obstacle in life. But looking at the statistics, around 10% of the UK population has signs of dyslexia or is dyslexic, which is around 6.5 million people. Or yesterday I tried to figure out how much is 6.5 million people. It turns out that this is a little bit less than the population of London. So the vast capacity of the number of diagnosed people is something that I find really difficult to imagine. It affects both men and women. So there is no differentiation here. And there is the genetic link, which some of you mentioned in my Menti share section, which means in translation that if your child has been diagnosed with dyslexia, chances are very high that any of the parents have signs of dyslexia as well, or other members of the extended family. All right. Some familiar faces. I'm absolutely certain that this is not news for all of you. You pretty well know all these people. Um, the only one that probably I didn't know was affected by dyslexia was Agatha Christie. I loved Agatha Christie as a child. Probably I read all of her books, and I didn't know that a person who is so eloquent in writing had dyslexia. Currently, the person who is on the top left, those of you who don't know him, this is Theo Papithis. As far as I know, he was born in Cyprus. He left school when he was 16 just because of his severe dyslexia, so he couldn't graduate. But since then, he has been amassing his fortune in retail business, and he is very much popular today as a participant in the Dragsden. At the same time, he's an advocate of dyslexic people, and he supports widely people who are affected by dyslexia and suffer from it. Um, Recently, probably 2, 3 days ago, I just realized that Jamie Oliver has started a campaign which aims at collating different resources and support for teachers in the classroom so that they can be better equipped and support the young learners in a classroom and make their lives a lot less let's say difficult and probably easy to find their future and their path in their lives. Um, this is a good collection of successful people. They're, of course, very much prominent and popular, but it doesn't mean that to be successful with dyslexia, you have to be popular and famous at the same time. For me, success has a very different um, measurement and perspective. It is absolutely individual perception of what success is all about. So moving on, a little bit more of statistical data. I've tried to divide that into sections, a positive and negative. So the positive side is that around 35% of US entrepreneurs and 20% of British ones showed some signs of dyslexia. So the study comes from the Cass Business School in London. And another interesting fact that I discovered is that around 40% of the 69,000 self-made millionaires also show signs of dyslexia or are dyslexic, which means to say that there is a way to succeed in life, and there are different types of techniques and support that our learners can receive in order to achieve their academic endeavors. However, there is another side of the story. Um, Statistics shows that 30% of prisoners are dyslexic, and the main reason for this is that those people never ever got the right support while they were at school age, or they were never diagnosed with dyslexia, respectively. They didn't have the chance to overcome this condition, this neurodiverse condition. Okay, so what we are going to do is a little bit of experiment. As I promised at the beginning, I'm going to try today and put you in the shoes of a dyslexic learner, just because I personally believe that there is no practitioner today who knows nothing about dyslexia, but my way of thinking is that it's one thing to know what dyslexia is all about, and it's another thing to feel like what is it to be a dyslexic person. So you can see the instructions of my activity. I'm just going to play the sound of it. Just to open a mental bracket, I've tried to create slides which are dyslexia friendly. So the background is a pale color. This is what the British Dyslexia Association advises, just to use pale colors as a background. The hue and shade doesn't really matter, so you can choose either yellow, pink, whatever, but it should be something rather light as a background. I'm just going to play the sound. All right, so I hope you have some pen and paper. Put it as portrait rather than landscape. Try and use the hand that you don't normally use and write with, and stand up if you're writing with a black pen. So let's see what happens. I'll play the next set of instructions, and I'll later on share the instructions in the text in the chat box. All right, I hope that you're ready. I'm going to place now the instructions in the chat box for you as I'm moving to the next slide where the actual task is. And when it stops, you can still continue working on the task. So the time limit is 3 minutes. Try and do as much as you can. And in the meantime, while you're doing it, think how you feel. I'll let you work for a while and I'll be back in 3 minutes. Okay, time's up. I hope you managed to complete some parts of the task, and I would like you to share your experience with all of us. You can go back to my mentee and share your thoughts there, but you can also join the talk. Feel free to share with us. Just unmute yourself, and you're more than invited and welcome to share how you felt. Did you manage to do anything? Did you manage to copy any part of the text? How did it go? I personally did it a long time ago. I can share later on my personal experience. Or you can type in the chat if you're happy. Savinch, I think you said you were ready. Ross is sharing. All right.
Hi, yes. Hi, Teodora. Thank you so
Hi,
much for
Savinch.
this lovely session. It's very, really important to us to know about those dyslexic students because it is very difficult to identify them because sometimes they don't want to admit they are shy. But these dyslexic students require patience as well. A lot of repetition, a lot of patience, and they forget things quickly. But they are very smart. They are very smart, and they are very they- well knowledgeable as well.
That's
So,
absolutely true.
but whatever they exercise you delivered, obviously, even we are not this. I don't consider myself dyslexic because I haven't done
I
the
guess you
test.
have to be diagnosed rather than consider yourself.
Exactly. But imagine that somebody is asking dyslexic student to copy something, and within the short period of time, they got panicked
Mm-hmm. That's
immediately.
absolutely true. Yeah.
And they
Mm-hmm.
don't know if they're going to do it correctly,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the spelling, and if their spellings are going, they're gonna do cross check every single
Exactly.
word all the time continuously. They are under pressure that they have to finish. They won't be able to finish within that time. So we need to recognize it that and give them extra time and ask them,
True.
okay, don't worry about the time, just do as much as you can because it is different for
Exactly. Yeah.
them to mainstream students, right?
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Savinch. I
You're
can see
welcome.
some other lovely, I would say, results shared here. Ross, I've been wondering what you've got there. Are you happy to share your experience with us? How did you feel with your attempt? I also see
Yeah,
Sai
sorry.
Bobo. Okay. Yep.
Um, yeah, it was stressful, really
Stressful. All
stressful.
right. I
As
know.
you can see from my horrendous script, left-handed blue pen, um,
Yay.
and most of it's been written backwards, even the question marks and the S's, the
Uh-huh.
D's, the Y's. I think the only things that I
Exactly.
got in the correct order of sort of front to back would be T and P. Everything else was just horrendous. But actually, yeah, I think it was a really excellent example of how frustrating these things can be. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Ross, for your contribution. I appreciate it. And I would like to invite somebody else, one more, before I go on. I'm happy to be an interactive session rather than just listening to my voice.
I
Sai
really,
Bobo, can I invite
yeah,
you?
okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this exercise. Actually, I didn't use the handwriting. Sorry for that because I don't have time.
Mm,
But I just wanted to see how it looked like. So I just type it on the computer and
uh-huh.
change the font. So it look like this. But this is the
Okay.
amazing exercise. Yeah, I know this would be truly difficult. Thank you so much.
I know it's absolutely frustrating. Okay, and I'm just looking at my word cloud here. So a lot of you have shared that they felt confused, uncomfortable, they found it difficult, strange. Yes, absolutely. Kind of bizarre activity. Feeling left behind. That's absolutely true. Frustration and all these kind of negative feelings that all dyslexic learners most probably experience while they're asked to do activities and perform in class. So I'm sharing now further what the most common strategies among dyslexic learners are when they're in mainstream classroom situation. In other words, no support provided. So they generally tend to copy from their neighbor. You can see them elbowing their neighbor, trying to figure out what's going on. They start writing normally, but then they go back and make certain changes. Quite often they omit the dots of the I or just the crosses of the T letters as well. They just give up at some point, thinking that they're incapable of doing anything and living with the feeling of frustration, being lost and not knowing what to do next and how to perform in class, which basically affects their confidence in most of the cases. And this is the stage where they decide studying is not for me. And another common let's say physical outlook is when you see that they're fidgety in class. So dyslexic students are very much fidgety, and I'm telling you out of experience. I used to have a lot of well, unpleasant situation as a mother with my fidgeting son, like for example, crossing a street and not being able to keep him in his pram, being on the verge of being hit by a car, for example. So that's real life situation. Or we you know, I come from Bulgaria. In our culture, it is more than vital for our children to study English. So English is the most popular foreign language. Can you guess what the earliest age of a parent to take their child to formal English classes is in Bulgaria? You can type in the chat. So think about the earliest age of a child can be taken to formal classes. What do you believe is the earliest? Or you can just unmute yourself and talk to me. That would be lovely. Okay, I can see 6 months, three, probably the age of 3. Let me see, 8 years old, 5, 12, 5, 2 years, okay, 3 years, okay. I don't have any one of you who's got the right answer. The earliest age we take our kids to English tuition is 3 months old. So the moment the baby is 3 months old, a lot of parents, of course, parents who are rich enough, they take their child to a formal class. Of course, don't imagine three-month-old babies being left alone in a classroom. All the tuition happens with the presence of a parent. So the parent is the one that facilitates the baby. But yes, that's the reality. My insanity started when my son was 18 months old. So that's the time when I signed up my child to formal studies. It's not shocking. I can talk about it later on, but that's the reality, Loretta. Yes, I know for some people it really is shocking. But anyway, in
Valentina
my
got
case,
it. I think Valentina is the winner for that because she got it as free 3 months
oh,
old. Yes.
okay. Well, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for helping me. Okay, so these are some of the common signs of a dyslexic learner in a classroom, and I'm sure that most of you have experienced the same feelings. I've got a short video which beautifully describes what dyslexia is all about, and I hope that it is a really good recap of what we've been discussing so far. So just tell me whether you can hear the sound. Can you?
Yes.
Can
Yes,
you
we
hear
can
the
hear.
sound? Yeah. Okay,
We can.
amazing. Okay, thanks for watching. Let's move on to the next part. I'll give you 2 minutes to focus on these statements and make a decision whether they're true or false. You can type in the chat a quick check of the comprehension of the video. I'm sure that it's nothing strenuous, all of you academics. You can work with your partner if the person sitting next to you is in the session. I'll give you literally 2-3 minutes, not more, and then move on to the next part since I have some more things to mention. Okay, let's check. The idea is not to test you. Thank you, Mac. All right, have a look at the slide. So my main takeaway from this activity is the first part, the first statement that individuals with dyslexia often perceive letters and words differently than those without the condition, which is not really true. The perception is the same, but if you remember from the video, it's a matter of how the brain processes information, and that basically is one of the reasons why we need to assign our students extra time in class whenever we give a variety of tasks to perform, and especially when we talk about assessment, is vital for them to be given ample time to perform properly. It is just the transfer of information from one lobe to the other, and this is what takes more time for dyslexic learners to process. All right. So, talking about dyslexia in general, we talk about the ideal situation. We've got our learner who's been diagnosed, well supported, has all the help of professionals in place. But it should be noted that the situation is not ideal. We've got we quite often have a learner who's got an exhibit signs of other neurodiverse conditions like dysgraphia, which is the writing disability, or dyspraxia, which is related to well, hardships in coordination. Like, for example, my son confuses directions, and I remember when he was little, um, he couldn't properly tie his shoes, so that was part of his condition as well. The skills for math and learning mathematics are also affected. This is dyscalculia, and the inability to properly write words, like, which is dysgraphia. So we should be mindful of this fact as well when we have a dyslexic learner in our classroom um, as well. Okay, I'll finish off with this task. I know all of you are tired. So have a look at these slides. I've just listed some of the most common problems that dyslexic students exhibit and have. I'll give it just 1 minute, not more, just to think which of them you believe are linguistic, those that are more important for us to be mindful of in the classroom, and which of them are non-linguistic. Just 1 minute, and I'll go over them with some more examples. All right. So I hope you've reached the same answer. So the first set of problems that our learners experience are linguistic. I've listed them for us to be able to have a look and discuss a little bit. So the first part is that they find it difficult to segment words into phonological units, and the example I've given here is with the word cat. So it's a strenuous task for them. Another thing is the phoneme-grapheme correspondence. If we take the word fish, for example, whether they would spell it with F as the animal or F as fishing, like a problem with emails, this is something that they face as a challenge. They find it hard sometimes to recognize words in general, and here in my experience at the moment in GBS, I've got students who are part of the P100 project, and some of them are dyslexic. They're supported by the wider team, but they need somebody else just to help them proofread their work. And this is what I try and support them with, because the software cannot make difference between homophones, for example. So that's where I jump in and support them. Um, Another thing which they exhibit is the inability to recognize the proper spelling. So whether they spell friend the way it is in the first part, i.e., or just they omit any of the vowel sounds, for them makes no difference. So this is where they need more help and support. And another sign linguistically is when they speak, when they have to orally perform, they somehow lag behind with the choice of wide range of vocabulary, especially when we train them to improve their level of English. So the more advanced they become, the harder it is to expand their vocabulary. Um, uh, Moving on, they find it hard to retrieve words. So we know that the information is stored somewhere here at the back of their brain, the long-term memory, but the retrieval process is somehow hard for them to do. Um, and another sign, which I believe is more common for young learners, is problems with articulation. My son, for example, had it when he was little, and the example I've got here is wabbit instead of rabbit. Although these problems or signs shouldn't be taken individually only. So, well, what I mean is that if a child mispronounces the one word or a set of words, does not mean automatically that they have signs of dyslexia. So it's a complex process of diagnosing a student or a learner in general. And another thing which is important to bear in mind when we teach is that they have problems with short-term memory. So I believe that's one reason why we need to recycle and repeat information over and over again and give them time to have the opportunity to think the information in. Okay, and the next set is non-linguistic problems. Let's see which will be important for us as practitioners. Probably some difficulties with handwriting, and I would say even today when we are not that much, or probably we have forgotten the skill to handwrite. I personally have issues handwriting, especially long texts, although I'm of a generation which used to do dictations in class at university, and this is how I got my first job as an assistant professor. I had to write a really long text as a dictation, but today we are sort of used to typing. Um, Another thing which we may face as a problem in class as practitioners is time management. Which means that we need to support them a little bit more with organizing their work in the classroom. Just giving them tips, giving them suggestions what to do, although I'm sure that those who have the right support of the wider team are very well trained and they know how to organize themselves as well. And again, we need to be mindful whenever we expect them to learn new skills. It takes longer time, so we can't expect them to acquire a new skill within 2 weeks, so more time should be set for this. Okay, so some teaching techniques. What can we do in class and why we do it? The most probably popular approach for dyslexic learners is to be multisensory, so that we can use all the paths to the brain, or all the senses at the same time, so we can offer them material which is visual. They love a variation of different colors. We also have to provide them with some hearing materials, like at the beginning of this session, we had the slides also in an audio version and text version. In class, we can also provide them with a written text of the session that we are delivering. And I think we in GBS perform pretty well in this respect. All our materials are shared in advance, and our students have ample time to have a look at what is going to be discussed and taught in class prior to every lecture. And the final part from this slide for me is probably one of the most important in terms of classroom delivery style. As a practitioner, I personally tend to elicit a lot of information. However, with dyslexic students, eliciting is not always the best approach. So rather than eliciting information, be explicit and of what you want them to do. So don't expect them to be able to read between the lines the most important information of a lecture. Okay, something else that I think important and I personally apply in my teaching practice is the second part of this slide, which is the Pomodoro technique. Is anybody familiar with what Pomodoro means? Has any one of you used it in class as a teaching style, I would say? I would be happy to hear somebody else if there is anybody willing to join me. You can directly unmute yourself and talk to me. Yeah, Marcida says 20-minute work. Yeah, Marcida, are you happy to join us?
Yeah, sure, Teodora.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so um, To be fair, I haven't come across, the use of this technique in teaching, but I have in terms of work. I know of
Okay.
people who kind of block their time into 30-minute slots and they do 25 minutes of work and then take a 5-minute break because obviously it enhances productivity.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you so much for this. So what
Thanks.
I tend to do in class in order to apply this technique, because I believe it is beneficial not only for neurodiverse students, it is beneficial for the today's learner, I would say. Most of us have either 5 hours or four hours per day. So I personally tend to have 20 minutes of input asking the students to do something, or I do something like a delivery on my side, then I give them 5-minute break and then we move on to another task. So in other words, it is small chunks of information within the 25 minutes or 20 minutes rather than the lecturer delivering and monotonously speaking in front of the class. It is believed that it helps the brain and it helps memory as well. Much better. Okay, so I've got some, I'm very much conscious of the time. Um, Anything else that we probably haven't talked about? I'll just focus on this peer-mediated learning. I'm that certain that all of you are familiar of the terminology. One activity that I have experimented with my learners is the so-called reading circles, which puts the learner in small groups. They read different parts of a text and then they swap information. And this is how they work towards comprehending some specific information related to the topics they're discussing. And the last thing to do is to overlearn. And this is what we have been doing today, revolving around the topic of dyslexia, which I believe is something not new for most of you or for all of you. But at the same time, I've tried to use different techniques to go through this information and support the long-term memory. Okay, something quick. Um, which we can easily apply in our classroom is to adjust the light and the heat as well. So dyslexic learners react to really hot places. I personally at home keep the temperature down in my son's bedroom. Sorry. Of course, the right light is what the learner can tell you. You can't decide on your own. Okay. Um, I'll move on to some learning aids that I've used. Well, in our context here, we don't literally use books, printed books, but I'm sure that some lecturers ask the learners to read certain articles and texts. So if you want your learner to focus their attention on one specific part of the text, you can simply take an A4 format text and cut a window the size of the text you want them to focus. And believe me, it does wonders and it doesn't cost anything apart from some stationery from the office. I've done it with my son at home and the results were amazing at the end. Some other gadgets which are pretty much old out there on the market is the colored overlay and the colored filter. The filter has a little window which is either the size of 12 or 14 point font, the fonts that we use on our Word documents. And the colored overlay helps the learner grasp the information much better in terms of visual. I think all these things and stationaries are available out there on the market and are not difficult to find. And of course, the good old magnifying ruler and the little pencil grip that also is available out there on the market. Not to forget the assistive technology, the text-to-speech tools, a lot of AI tools out there, the C-pen reader, the special keyboard, which you can supply your dyslexic learners with. And I have just mentioned some of the tools which we have on our Moodle page, which can be very much beneficial to supporting our learners, like Quizlet, for example. We can teach them how to create their own flashcards and learn much better for their exams. I'll skip the ChatGPT version. You can always try it. And one final thing, Loretta Miller, who is our head of the welfare team, helped me with some data. So well, by the 20th of January, she says we've got about 505 dyslexic learners and we provide support for them. This is thanks to the welfare team. And let's not forget the latest initiative in GBS, which is the Project 100, where we do welfare checks and see whether our students are ready to disclose their neurodiverse condition. And we also provide them with some extra language support during our one-to-one sessions. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope you found it, well, let's say refreshing. Thank you, Pete. You're on mute.
Thank you so much. Thank you absolutely so much, Teodora. I think we haven't got much time for questions, but have we got any questions? If we've got any questions, because what we could do is we could take just the first one or two quickly because of time. If not, that's fine. We got one question.
Yeah, Mohammed.
Mohammed, do you want to hit that one? And we're just going to take that and then we'll make an announcement. Go for it, Jahangi.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask one question that, you said that the slow speech is a linguistic one, right? And I do agree with you that if you focus on linguistic nature of the problem, slow speech could be indeed belong to linguistic. But for me, it is non-linguistic too. Can you just give us a little bit your expertise on that?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. It really is vital. Well, for me, it is linguistic because it is the physical place where we form our sounds and where we articulate whenever we whenever we speak a language. And when we discuss the acquisition of a foreign language, it is for me more of a linguistic, but yes, to an extent, I can agree that that can be a physical or non-linguistic at the same time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Okay. So, Teodora, what is the takeaway for the session?
Thank you so much for this question, Pete. For me, the takeaway from this session would be that dyslexia is empowering.
Wow. I really love that. Dyslexia is empowering. Now, before we go, ladies and gentlemen, just quick announcement. The announcements we've got. We just want to thank you for a wonderful session. We want to thank also. Oh, we've got Dorike. We've got Dorike with us, and Dorike is our specialist learning difficulties lead coordinator down here at GBS, and she delivers training on us on I think assistance technology and understanding dyslexia when it comes to working with our students. I don't know if Dorike, do you want to say something about the training you've got going on with our students and what's happening? Because some lecturers might not know about it. Dorike, are you there? You there? You go.
Yes, I'm here.
I'm here. Wonderful.
What I do is I go into all the classes, the new classes, so level 3 across the board, apart from Pearson's, which will be level 4, and do assistive technology training to show them things that are already accessible and already free on their laptops already and any computers that they have. That is done through myself and with the dyslexia champions that are based on every campus as well. So that's the assistive technology that we do. So you might get an email from myself saying that I want to come into your classrooms, talk to your students, and then introduce them to technology that would be able to help them. I also diagnose students as well. So if any of the students have any learning differences or any struggle at all, you can direct them to myself or to the welfare officer on campus, and we'll get them diagnosed, we'll get them sorted, we'll assess them to see which avenue we need to take them. So there's a lot that we're doing within the welfare team to build them up, because it's a long process. But once we start them on that journey, we can get them and point them into the right direction.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dorika. And thank you for coming here today. Thank you. And I know we've got also the head of welfare here as well, Loretta. Thank you all for the wonderful work you do in the department. Thank you all. And thank you, Teodora. It was wonderful again. Wonderful to have you on board. I think the session today was really great. And thank you to every single one of you who showed up today. I really appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful evening, and see you again, same time, same place next week. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much,
Bye.
Peter,
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Theodora.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye.